Welcome back, everyone, in this week's new movie review. I'm not going to bury the lead here. The Amateur, starring Rami Malek, is the best film I've seen all year long. Yes, it has not performed well at the domestic box office, having been released last week, and it just released down here south of the Rio Grande yesterday, but it deserves to have a lot more eyeballs on it than what the financials currently state. The basic plot of the film is that Rami Malek plays Charlie Heller, a CIA cryptographer with a 170 IQ. He's a scrawny, unintimidating man. His wife, Sarah, played by Rachel Brosnahan, is then killed in a terror attack in London. Charlie becomes frustrated with the speed at which the CIA is going after the men who took her life. Therefore, he blackmails his way into operational and field training to go after the terrorist himself. And without spoiling the plot too much, there are factions within the CIA that are aiding Charlie, and there are those that are out to seek his demise based on the subplots of the film, which rely heavily on counterintelligence work. What is great about this film right off the bat is Malek and the way he portrays Charlie. He's fragile in the beginning. He's a man who, as one of the character puts it, could not beat a 90-year-old nun in an arm wrestling contest. There is a realism to the character that we as an audience can relate to. This is not Rambo. It's not some super spy who always has the upper hand. This is an everyday person under extraordinary circumstances. The film is careful to show just how vulnerable Charlie is. As he progresses in his story, he is bested physically by just about everyone because he's not a physically dominating person, and we are never led on to believe that he is. We are not insulted as an audience by having Charlie Heller take on seasoned terrorists in hand-to-hand combat and besting them. It would not make any sense, and the film respects us as an audience in that regard. Charlie has neither the size nor strength to be Jason Bourne. Instead, we get a great character who uses his intelligence and his engineering skills to construct devices to get him where he needs to be, or get him out of where he needs to escape from. We get a character who is constantly making mistakes, but learning as he goes. In short, we get character development and character arc, a hero's journey. Something most modern films have been lacking or fail to understand how to do. Having this type of character makes you believe that he could just die at any moment in the film, that he's constantly in danger, and it provides a constant concern for him with the audience, giving us something to root for. And when he gets his small little victories, it makes them all the more meaningful. And when something does happen that involves Charlie out of his element because he is not someone who's built for the spy trade, you get a post-event reaction from Charlie that makes absolute sense. He vomits, he panics, he makes mistakes normal people would make. He has emotional outbursts, and it does not hurt that Malek is in top form for the role, as is every other actor in the cast, especially Laurence Fishburne and Jon Bernthal. Now, just a caution for Bernthal fans, as I am one of them, he's only in 2 scenes with just dialogue, but they're really well-crafted scenes. Fishburne is his usual fantastic self. Not many people have that type of gravitas that he has on screen. Coupled with his signature voice and delivery, even at the times when you're supposed to root against him, you're still hooked because he's on screen doing what he does best. And the rest of the supporting cast is superb. They know their roles, they know how to deliver their lines, and just exactly what they need to do to help shepherd the narrative forward. And I think we have to give a lot of credit to the director of the film, James Hawes, whose only other film credit is One Life with Anthony Hopkins. And if you've not seen that film, you should. It's a great performance and a very heartwarming story. Other than that, Hawes is known for mostly episodic TV work, Black Mirror, Penny Dreadful, and Snowpiercer. He manages to keep the pacing of this film very healthy. It never gets too slow. It never gets too fast. It feels controlled and allows the audience to stay engaged, never losing us because it gets bogged down in exposition or gets too caught up in delivering way too over-the-top action sequences. The story itself is written well for general audiences. There is a lot of technology and AI being used throughout the plot, but it never gets too wonky and it never sails above the audience's head. The script does very well to quickly inform or show us what the technology is and how it works and how it's working within the script. Now, I do have a criticism of the film, though. The story requires a longer film. There was a lot packed into this movie, and therefore you can tell where edits were made in support of keeping it at 2 hours long. There could have been more detailed scenes of Charlie building devices, or where he got certain items, or just how he manages to think through a certain problem. Yes, I know, most moviegoers like 2 hours, maybe less than 2 hours for a film, but this film could have benefited from an extra 15 minutes tacked on just to follow Charlie step by step through some of his obstacles. And this is where I think most will have their criticisms placed. There are noticeably missing pieces, or jumps from one moment to another, and what happened with Charlie in between would only add to the character and the story, not take away from it. An example of this, and spoiler alert, Charlie is trapped in a restroom of a bar. Laurence Fishburne's character, Colonel Henderson, is waiting for him at that bar. The next scene we see is Charlie exiting the restroom and walking over to the Colonel to talk and seemingly give himself up. Then there's an explosion from the restroom that allows Charlie to escape. We already know that he is adept at building IEDs and other explosive devices based on previous scenes in the movie. However, it would have been great to see his process as a character in this, his first scene, trapped like a rat in a cage, and how and what he builds, and why he does what he does. Is it a necessary thing to have? No, but the more you can eliminate the need for an audience to fill in the gaps, the less suspension of disbelief you require for your film to feel authentic. However, in the end, if this film breaks even or turns a little bit of a profit, it should be a franchise. It should be a trilogy. It certainly sets itself up as one in the end, and there are multiple options left wide open for these characters to explore going forward. And I end this review the way I began it. This was the best film I've seen in theaters this year. Will it remain that? Only time will tell. But certainly I would recommend it to anyone looking for a more mature storytelling option to balance out the Snow Whites or Minecrafts that we've been given thus far. And that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, I'm still your reluctant gringo, and from somewhere south of the border. Salut and a huevo.